Hi, Patrick. Can you explain to us the difference between Sekim and Sechim? A lot of people ask us the question if it's two different names for the same energy. Let's talk a little bit about this today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for asking. Yes, this is a big question a lot of people have always asked. So, this will be the first time that I sit down and really explain it very well in the video. So, back in 1980 is when I had my first experience in the Great Pyramid. And then it was 1984, so it's 4 years later, I started to teach this energy healing. I did not have a name for it at the time. Reiki was just starting to be well known. Actually, there was just a few masters at the time. And so I was teaching this energy, and what happened is that I didn't have a name. So I was doing my meditation, and one day this name came. It was called Sekhim. And it's something that I heard, so it didn't have a spelling. And since then, I just started calling it Sechim. Now, I taught different people, and different people didn't know how to spell it, and I didn't know how to spell it at the time, and most everything I did was verbal. So we originally had the spelling Seichim. And that was then marketed by Phoenix Summerfield at the time. And this was around 1988, 89 at the time. And Phoenix, she really never studied with me directly. She studied with a guy named Tiom Seaman. And Tiom did a lot of research, and he told Indian guru one time about the Sekim and the energy, and he wanted to know if this guru knew anything about it. And so this guru says, well, he says there was something going on in India with energy, and it was called the Sechim. And so that's really where the difference of the pronunciation started. So Tiom was teaching it as Sechim. I was still teaching it as Sekim. So most of the people that have a, you might say, a lineage that goes through Tiom, they call it Sechim. Now, at one point, I did find a very good book by Robert Masters, and he was talking about the Sekhmet in the book. In fact, the book is called The Goddess Sekhmet. And this lady says, I met, she says, you should read this book. It sounds like it's connected to what you do. And so I read it, and they had in that book, it was the first time that I saw a reference to Sekim. And the spelling was Sekhem. And that was probably around 1988, I guess. I had just been teaching a few years then. And so I thought we should change the spelling now that we actually have a spelling, because he described the Sekim as kind of like the source energy in a way. Now, keep in mind, though, that Sekim was never the name of a healing system in Egypt. So there's a lot of discrepancy there. Sekim was just the name. They called it Powers of Powers. Sekim was also used to donate somebody if they were of a royal status. It'd be like Your Highness. They would say the name Sekim with the pharaoh. And also there was a place called Sekim, which was a little bit like Mount Olympus, the place where the gods lived, or the place where the gods came from. So there are all these different references about Sekim. Also, if you study the Egyptology, Osiris was considered to be the great Sekim. Now, recently what's happened is that people would say, well, because Sekhmet's name is connected with Sekim, that it's connected, she has a strong connection to it. But the reality is that Sekhim has the male neuter gender. Sekhmet is the feminine gender. Now, if you're talking about energy, a lot of times people divide the energy masculine and feminine. And so that's the reason why they had masculine gods and feminine gods. But also within the masculine is the neuter. And this was my feeling is that the neuter aspect, the non-duality, the non-masculine and feminine, this is really where we want to focus. Okay? So the difference in the beginning was just pretty much the way that it was pronounced. Different people had different ways to pronounce it. Also the spellings, we have the spelling S-E-I-C-H-E-M, we have the spelling S-E-I-C-H-E-M, and we have S-E-K-H-E-M. Now, at one time, I decided I want to try to bring everybody together and stop all this division. So I came up with the idea to spell it S-K-H-E-M. And that way it would incorporate all of the different forms, and we could all kind of harmoniously work together. But that really didn't work. What people would do is they would say, okay, now Patrick's teaching S-K-H-M, this person's teaching Sechim, this person's teaching this and that, and it created a lot of divisions. The other thing people would do is they would associate a particular god and goddess to it. So the original, one of the original divisions was, okay, I'm teaching Sekhmet Sekim. Another person would say, oh, I'm teaching Isis Sekim. Another one would say, no, I'm teaching Kuan Yin Sekim. It was like all of these different gods and goddesses associated with the energy. Now, the reality is that the energy has no form. It has no duality associated to it. So soon as you begin to identify it as masculine or feminine or have a color, you're actually bringing it down, the vibration down when you do that. And this is very important for people to realize. And so the original spellings, I can look at the spellings, I can tell which teachers introduced that. For instance, the S-E-I-C-H-E-M mostly came from a lady named Kathleen Milner. And she started teaching the Teramai Sekim, and she would spell it with that spelling. So there was that branch. There was the Helen Bellett branch. Helen had a little more of a focus on a kind of trying to keep it more pure Egyptian. Another lady, which her teacher, Margot Slater, she was connected to like an Indian lineage, and so she taught it as kind of a Kuan Yin type of energy. So this is really what's happening. So just remember that it's really all the same energy, just different teachers have put their flavor on it and put their emphasis on different aspects of the energy. Okay.
Wow, that's amazing explanation. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you.